A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Liolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Kaizer Chiefs as I have a look at the January transfer window. So, having a look at Kaizer Chiefs then in the January transfer window, they were linked to so many players, but in the end, they got none, which is quite disappointing then, especially considering the fact that they really needed a defensive midfielder. However, that position then wasn't addressed. So, when you have a look at it then, what was announced then on the last day of the transfer window were the contract extensions of various young players, which then is a positive for the club because then it underlines and highlights where the club is headed to. However, the problem then becomes the man at the helm who goes by the name of Stuart Baxter, because he has shown reluctance when it comes then to giving young players an opportunity. So when you've got a lot of these young players then being tied down on long-term contracts, but we haven't really seen the integration of some young players in the past couple of months, it does then cause a bit of confusion, because then you ask yourself, what's going to happen to a lot of those young players going forward? However, overall, I do think that these are positive news. And going forward then, if Kaizer Chiefs are to build and look to integrate the young players, I just think then they are going to need a coach then who would facilitate for that and who is willing then to integrate young players and use those young players within his system. That is something that is going to be very interesting going forward. So do let me know at home, what do you make of those contract extensions? Some of the players who have extended their contracts, SABELO, RADEBE, you've got MASHIANE, you've got Sifama, you've got Thabo Mokoena, Bruce Bavuma has extended as well, Nkosingiphile as well is also another one, and then FROSLER. Do let me know at home, what do you make of those contract extensions? But the main focus on today's episode then is to have a look at Nkosingiphile Ngcobo. So when you have a look at Nkosingiphile Ngcobo, then this is a player who is a creative player. So he plays as an attacking midfielder for this Kaizer Chiefs side. When we have a look at Nkosingiphile Ngcobo, this is a player then who had a great season last season by virtue of the fact that he was arguably Kaizer Chiefs' best player last season with regards to his performances, his assists and goals, and his influence on the team. And then when you have a look at this season with Stuart Baxter at the helm, he hasn't really gotten that opportunity. It's only towards then the end of last year, which is 2021, where we started seeing him get a lot more involved. And on the bench, there was Coach Arthur Zwane. And with Nkosingiphile Ngcobo coming in, then we then saw how influential he was for this Kaizer Chiefs side, how important then he was then with regards to operating in between the lines, with regards then to occupying the half space, being able to take the ball on the back foot, being able then to play in those tight pockets of spaces, and then also looking to progress the ball and penetrate within the final third. We also saw that he did score two lovely goals, one against Sekhukhune, where he does drop off into the half space, he collects in between the lines, he collects the ball, pushes the ball in, and then he finishes off very well. And then the second one was against Maritzburg United, where he picks up the ball outside the box, he looks to cut in, and then he curls it into the corner. So when you have a look at this young player, then this is a player then who is very influential, and I think one of the most talented, if not the most talented young player that we have within South Africa. But now the question is, coming back into the second round, will he feature for Coach Stuart Baxter? Because we do know that he's back, and Kaizer Chiefs are then preparing, and we do know that the football will be kicked off with the Nedbank Cup fixtures. And what's then very interesting then is also that Cole Alexander is injured, and he does look like he will be out for a couple of weeks. So then this does then give Nkosingiphile Ngcobo an opportunity, especially considering then that Kaizer Chiefs have been setting up with a midfield three. So most used midfield three has been Njabulo Ngcobo, Patucheza Nange, and then Cole. However, with Cole that is out now, it then gives an opportunity to Nkosingiphile Ngcobo. And when you have a look at Nkosingiphile Ngcobo coming into this midfield, then it really would give it that creativity, that verticality, and a player then who has that final third penetration from the heart of midfield. And he'd give you then that creative presence within vertical zone 3. He'd pop up into zone 14 as well. He'd pop up into the 2 half spaces. And I just then think that with regards to him, he would then be a player that Kaizer Chiefs really need within that midfield, because we do know that Kaizer Chiefs midfield has lacked creativity at times. And what I then like about Nkosingiphile Ngcobo is that he keeps getting better with regards then to his shots that he takes from range, and he then keeps getting better at being able then to score those goals as well. So this is a key player then who I think will be very important coming up into the second round, but it remains to be seen as to if Coach Stuart Baxter then will use him within his 11. But I think that he should be given a chance, and there's so much that he could contribute for this Kaizer Chiefs side. Also then considering the fact that when you have Keegan Dolly, who starts off the right-hand side, who starts as a right inverted winger, he does look to drift into that half space. So when you then have Nkosingiphile Ngcobo, he'd most likely occupy the other half space, and vertical zone 3 as well, and then look to occupy zone 14 and look to penetrate within the final third. This then would take the onus and the pressure off Keegan Dolly from a creative perspective, because then Kaizer Chiefs would have 2 very creative players operating in those tight pockets of spaces, in the half spaces and within vertical zone 3. So going into the second round of the season, do let me know, do you foresee Stuart Baxter utilizing Nkosingiphile Ngcobo a lot more and rewarding then his performances that he displayed, especially against Sekhukhune and Maritzburg United towards the end of the year last year? Or do you think then he will go back to the bench? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Liolo. Signing out.